within the Moodle platform, two countries we work with are Bangladesh and India. So we have current legislation for financially challenged students about which grants they can apply for, which is updated by our Bangladeshi partners to give full information to financially challenged students what assistance they can get financially to attend higher education, number one. Number two, we have a commitment to open source and freely available materials. We've developed 6 or 7 AI tech educational tools that are open source, free for use. When we recommend content creation tools, we recommend the open source ones. As far as possible, we give information not just on how to create accessible training materials, but what quotas there are for people with disabilities, what financial assistance there are for people with disabilities or from financially challenged backgrounds, and we never charge for access to the platform. Any of the tools, any of the resources are all free for use, anywhere, anytime.
Thank you.
All free for use. If you charge money for education resources for a group of people who are already financially challenged, you're creating instantly another barrier, aren't you? So we, in our research team, we're completely committed to open source, free for use. You can modify it, open source, modify it, as long as you attribute where the original material came from. So if it's some material and you want to modify it to be a Bangla version, then please go ahead. Just acknowledge where the source came from, but free for use.
I would like to add something. Thank you for raising the particular question. Those who are financially disadvantaged, some of the universities, the brilliant student, they actually have policy to waive their tuition fees as well.
Yeah.
And in public university, also they have some policy. So brilliant student, but marginalized.
Yeah.
So they get this facility. So
Yeah.
regarding the content and the digital material, you already mentioned what our project can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's really important that within our Moodle platform we have lots of courses on how you create accessible accommodation, how you create accessible, make accommodations for entrance exams, but we absolutely keep the content on our Moodle platform up to date about which universities waive fees, what grants then they can apply for. And that would be from people from universities in Bangladesh to keep that information prominent and up to date. So it's about giving information to students and disseminating it through our network about which universities waive fees, which universities offer grants, those kind of things. And then in addition, all the resources are free too, and open source. All right, absolutely. In terms of women students, there's, we want this to grow organically. So the Moodle courses themselves, we want better representation of women in our project. So in terms of, so we're really looking forward to increasing the network representation for women and for those women to write courses which are specifically appropriate for younger women students in Bangladesh. And also we're adopting Athena Swan. Have any of you heard of Athena Swan? So I'm not sure if it's just a European framework. It's a framework which recognizes and awards to universities and vocational training centers and research centers awards based on their gender equality approaches. So it really, first of all, recognizes what policies and methods you have to promote the inclusion of women in research and higher education, then gives you award, gold, bronze, and silver that your institution gets to show that you've made a real commitment to gender equality in all your processes.
So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you for your nice presentation and to your enjoying, basically. So, I have a very fundamental question or inquiry. Suppose, basically, There are different types of disabilities like visual impairment, hearing impairment, physical disability, cognitive disability, speech disorder, mental health issues. There are different types of disability. So especially what type of disability you emphasize here? If you answer in a simple word.
Universal design for learning, which means all digital training materials are designed to be accessed by any of those people without making them have to make any changes. So, if you look at some of the exercises tomorrow for a person with a visual impairment, you've got to make sure that your content is, if it's a Moodle, uses one of the Moodle screen readers. If you have a picture or audio content, you have a caption with that which can be read. The visual content can be read to the person with a visual impairment using a screen reader too. If it's a person with deafness, you might have a sign language track to provide an alternative to the sound they can't hear, or for people in noisy environments. If you're a person with dyslexia, you use sans serif format and high contrast so people with dyslexia can read the text. It's for all of them. If you follow universal design for learning, it makes recommendations to make sure the text, the digital training materials are accessible by that whole group of people. It means that all learners are supported to be able to access digital training materials. It's for all of those people.
Okay. So actually there are different components, responsible components here. Suppose for disabled students, institutes, parents, teachers, guardians, government, and also society. All involvement we need to emphasize their learning process, to boost this learning process. Which part you cover in this research?
So, if you look at the guidelines in this toolkit, it can be applied to any of those areas. At the moment, we're looking at education, inclusive education. But if you look at some of the legislation I showed you before, the principles are the same. They look at the web content accessibility guidelines. But there's guidelines, very simple guidelines that we produce, which shows you how to make a web document accessible, a Word document accessible, a PDF accessible, a Moodle course accessible, and they're basically the same things. And but if you look at each of those guidelines, it shows you how to make each of those types of document accessible, and then use the built-in accessibility checker, which comes with all of those different formats, to get a written report on the level of accessibility of each and make corrections. Whether you're working in the private sector or public sector, it's the same underlying principles. However, we're concentrating on at the moment in this project in higher education. You can apply that to any area. They're guiding principles which make all online information accessible.
Basically, this is limited to institutes and teachers.
Why is it limited? Anybody can become a member of this. We're agnostic to where you come from. All of our resources are open source and free to use. At the moment, we're looking at people joining the platform who come from private and public universities in Bangladesh, for training centers. We're co-designing the materials with disability-related NGOs and employers too. I think the word limited is not something we're interested in. At the moment, it's targeted at higher education and training and vocational education, but you can apply these principles in most areas. As long as if there's a Word document content, a PowerPoint, a PDF, online web content in a Moodle platform, it's the same underlying principles about how you provide different formats and alternatives. So somebody with a visual impairment, hearing impairment, dyslexia, can access the material.
And my last question. And so your research is basically for disabled students, for the help of disabled students like this. So in this case, my question is, why you emphasize this work only for disabled students, but in Bangladesh, this is regarding Bangladesh. So in Bangladesh, there are a lot of students, they are deprived or they are out of advantage or facilities in Bangladesh in education. There are a lot of limitations we have for normal students. But we are emphasized for disabled students. What is the output? What will be the output if we research and if we take initiatives? There we need large finance. But what will be the output in this case? If we engage this finance for general students, maybe outcome will be more.
Okay.
So why you emphasize this one?
David, can you answer this question?
I can. The thing I introduced is called Universal Design for Learning, which means if you design the materials that I'm talking about and the way we're talking about, that means all students can access the information. If you make affordances for people, all text is usually accessible anyway to normative students. Then if you produce alternatives, affordances for people who are blind, deaf, people with dyslexia, people with motor impairments, and make them open source and free, that means in addition to people who can read text, all those people with limitations can also access that text. That means the materials are accessible to all. It's called Universal Design for All. And considering disabilities and impairments, and adding to the fact that most people can read written text, and if you have the affordances for the other groups, that means everybody, design for all. So it's not, we don't do design for disability, we take some considerations, it's actually design for all.
Okay, thank you. So by this time, we think some disabled are naturally by born, some are for accident, road accident like this, and some are in work. Also, there are some students are disabled for this.
Yeah.
So maybe we have the message to protect against the war in the world. It is one of the reasons to make the disabled. Do you think about this?
I don't really understand the question, sorry. Can anybody help me understand the question?
It is not question,
Huh?
actually his
It
is
suggestion, his suggestion.
It is
It is not question, his suggestion. Just I would like to add a little bit.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you very much for raising this question. When at the beginning, 3 years before, we just started this project, the question which I raised today, I also raised the same question. Why we are actually this? Actually, the people who goes to National Center for Special Education at Mirpur or CRP or CDD like this. So the person or the parents, those who have kids, they are not actually getting students to the normal school because we do not have any government policy, like strong policy. So always when a child goes to a normal school, always we avoid him or her and say, okay, you can beg and lead your life, or you can go to that school. So mentality actually totally different. But this project actually wants to accommodate everybody in a normal school. We do not want them to go to special school. They should accommodate in the normal school, and what will happen? The people will grow empathy towards them, and they also feel their peer to peer. And these contents or this technology or teaching aids or assistive technology will bring them to the mainstream. So this is actually what I gained from this project. Because now, the প্রতিবন্ধী স্কুল আছে ওখানে পাঠাই দেন তাদের তো এমনি মার্জিনালাইজ করে ফেললাম। বাংলা বলতেছে যে আসলে আমাদের উদ্দেশ্য হচ্ছে তাদের মেইন স্ট্রিমে নিয়ে আসা। এখন এই যে ইউনিভার্সিটিতে ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটিতে আমরা ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল স্টুডেন্টদের থেকে মানে we actually listen their story, very difficult. There is no a separate liaison office for the disabled. They will go there and get help. How there is some quota, but how they will absorb the quota? No guideline. It's very clear guideline. What they said, you must have certificate from the director of social welfare. Without that certificate, they will not consider him as a disabled. So there are a lot of constraints to get into the university. If, like Western countries or UK, what David actually mentioned that from 2010 they incorporated this policy in their university. Now drastic change. You see, in NTU every year they have audit. So we do not know even the audit, even IT. In every university there is an IT system. Still, I don't know whether these systems are audited per year or not. Okay, so this is the thing what is happening. So actually this is the workshop, so we would like to swap something, swap some knowledge. So whatever delivered by Professor Arif, Professor Mufti or Professor David, actually we will ask question like him. It is very interesting. So that will be actually useful for us. Thank you for my comments.
Thank you.
Sir, this project is for primary education to tertiary level, primary education to tertiary level,
Yeah.
in all levels.
So at the moment, it's just the way we package the information. All the guidelines about how you make learning materials accessible to all, we've just focused on higher education at the moment because that was the grant we got in Bangladesh. But all the work I do is in inclusive education, whether that's primary, secondary, tertiary. But the underlying principles are the same. It's called universal design for learning, that all learners are supported. So I'm not saying this is just for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
All the tools we use can be used for all learners. It's just that we also make affordances for people with disabilities, learning difficulties, physical and sensory disabilities. So it means you have learning materials everybody can access.
In all levels.
At all levels, yeah. You might have to focus them slightly different, but for all levels, really. The
Because-
project I have in Vietnam is for the students in schools. And we just emphasize different skills and different, some of the, like we have a readability analysis tool using computational linguistics, machine learning. What it does is it analyzes the complexity of the book and recommends key stages at school which should be appropriate for. But you can take that into higher education and say, is this course text appropriate for student text with dyslexia? And if not, recommend an easier to read text.
The
Yeah.
real challenge in our country, I think that
Can I just add something to David's comment? You say that, well, we are increasingly moving towards digitization, right? So right now, let's say that, well, a decade ago, a couple of decades ago, the delivery was based on pen and paper, chalk and duster, and all these kind of things. But gradually, we are moving towards digital delivery, right? So everybody is using PowerPoints, presentations, and all these things to deliver. Now, the principle is that, well, these accessible design of materials that allows you to create content which are not bound for the students who do not have any difficulties, okay? So it does not really matter that which level the student is. What is important is that, well, what you are preparing also addresses the challenges faced by other learners, okay? For example, what David was showing, that, well, if someone is having color blindness, what is going to happen? Someone is having dyslexia, they cannot really read. Someone is blind. How will you prepare your materials? Okay? So the purpose of the inclusive education toolkit is actually to give you some idea about how to prepare materials that can address the need of those students who are having challenges. Of course, right now, because of the funding constraints, we are focusing on higher education for tertiary education. But the same thing as David was mentioning can be directly, let's say, applied to students in schools. For example, we are doing that in Vietnam. Okay? So here, well, you have been brought into here because the funding is for higher education. Should the funding have been, for example, for schools, instead of you people, the school teachers would have been here. The principles would remain the same.
But if you've got a Moodle learning course and it's text, we're not saying replace the text, we're saying add alternatives to text. So in Moodle, you just make sure the screen reader is there too. So if you've got somebody with dyslexia or vision impairment, they can use the screen reader. If you are somebody who's from a normative population, you'll just read the text. If you're somebody, and if you've got some video and some pictures in there, when you get to the video and picture, include a caption so that their screen reader for somebody with a vision impairment can read it out to you if you can't see the screen. It's not taking away the content for somebody who hasn't got impairments. It's adding alternatives for people who do have impairments. So everybody, universal design for learning for everybody. It just means everybody can access the learning content. And apologies if I didn't get across that in the first place. Yeah.
I would like to include something like inclusive education is kind of not explored domain in our country, I will say. Until I moved there, the first it appeared like in one fine exam, I was supporting one of the teachers, and so that the teacher said, "Barif, can you allocate this student and that student 15 minutes extra?" I was okay, but then I was thinking, no, they came on time. Then why the teacher is allocating 15 minutes extra time to them? That was the first triggering point to me. And later I had a chat with that teacher, like why we gave 15 minutes extra time. And then said, oh, they have diagnosed dyslexia and it's already certified by doctor. Okay, that is the first point. It triggered me. Yes, if they have the learning disabilities, if we want to keep them all with the equal playing ground, equal opportunity and challenges, they should have little bit of extra time. But as you are all educators here, how many of are you aware, like if we have an exam of 2 hours, we randomly just giving 2 hours, that's it. We don't know even. Okay, I'm just giving one example. Now, Madhav sir's question, I'm going back, though it was a nice discussion earlier. We don't have the concept of inclusion, please. We are thinking with the, okay, only the students who have better capability, they will thrive. No, we think a little bit in a different perspective. We want to offer equal opportunity and let them explore, because some of them are by born a challenged student. So if someone is by born a challenged student, let's not marginalize them. Okay, try to facilitate them so that they can thrive. And yes, we have so many evidences. If you go to Europe and UK, you will see that this challenged student, they are serving equally with their assistive tools. That's it. We can do the same thing.
Now, the relevant point, another point that I would like to just add to Arif's point is that, well, we in Bangladesh, well, in general in South Asia, because we are high in population, the competition is fierce. Okay, that is why probably if we talk about the premier institutions and there is an entrance exam set and then through those entrance exam students are coming in, now you see that people are already excluded. For example, can you really think that someone with disability getting into BUET? Well, that chance is already gone there, but this does not mean that those students will not have the opportunity to learn. That is why, for example, all the open access courses and everything as a part of our efforts are free for everybody. For example, well, the MIT massively open access courses, yeah? They are not bounded by a geographical barrier, a geographical boundary, socioeconomic condition. That, well, if someone wants to learn, and we are increasingly moving towards an era where certificate has become just actually an entry point to a job. right? Now it is a skill-based economy that we are going towards. For example, people can come from a premier institute. If they do not know the relevant skills, they will not have the job. That is where we are heading towards. So if we can empower those people who wanted to be in the premier institutes but couldn't, they also will have some opportunity to train themselves. For example, all these online courses which are out there, people are now educating themselves. Now you see that if you take within the Balaji context, there are freelancers. How many freelancers are there, and how much money they are contributing to the country's economy? But well, many of them probably they do not have the necessary educational background from the premier universities in Bangladesh. Thanks to the open access curriculums which are available worldwide. Now, what we are aiming at is that, well, we have those baseline, yeah? There are curriculums, there are let's say courses which are available. Now these courses and curriculums are not really tailored for everybody, right? So they are again tailored to the normal people who are probably socio-economically disadvantaged, they couldn't get into a university, and those are the people. What if, let's say that they have, for example, blindness, but they are equally capable, intellectually? So how can we make it more accessible? So that is what has been one of the goals, that, well, inclusive education does not only bind us within the university paradigm, it is actually making educational resources more inclusive so that, well, it can reach everyone.
And it increases, so if you're a person with some form of impairment, if you have access to education, it improves your quality of life, and you can contribute to the economy of Bangladesh as well, rather than being a person who has to receive some kind of aid as well. So I think it makes economic sense as well. One last thing, the high-class universities of the West are penetrating the open distance market incredibly aggressively, and I think, you know, places like in India and Bangladesh, you should respond. Create your own open access accredited courses, universally designed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for the very nice discussion. Okay. I think that we are already late, or the coffee break is already over according to the schedule, okay? But we do not want to deprive you people from the coffee break. Let's have the coffee break and then come again for more, let's say, interactive and vibrant
The coffee
discussion.
break's only 15 minutes.
Yeah, the coffee break is only 15 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Well,